Hey everybody, today we're going to learn the difference between cash basis accounting and accrual basis accounting. Very briefly, should be less than 10-minute video. We'll do some sample problems as well to make sure we understand the difference between the two. So let's start off with the easiest one, and that is the cash basis accounting. So under cash basis accounting, that will be when there's an actual exchange of cash, and then that's when you'll record your revenues or expenses. So revenues will be recorded when cash is received. So when you actually receive the cash, you'll record your revenues. And then similar with expenses, they'll be recorded when the cash is paid out. All right. So that one is the easiest one to understand. If you're a small like Etsy shop, this is the basis you'll use. But if you're a larger company, um, you're going to want to use the accrual basis. This one is not allowed under GAAP. So just small little companies starting off, it is easier to understand. So if you do, it doesn't require as much understanding of the accounting concepts and principles, and it's fine to use. And then when you get an accountant, then you probably were going to switch over to the accrual basis because it's a little more accurate reflection of how you're doing. So the accrual basis accounting, that is actually going to have revenues recorded when they're earned. So that means when the business provided the goods or services to the customers, that's when they've earned it, and so they will record their revenue. So if a customer hadn't paid them yet, if the customer said, put on my account, I'll pay you later, we know that's going to go to accounts receivable. That's fine if the business provided the full service or the goods to the customer, even though they didn't get the cash for it yet, they're still going to record revenue because it was earned. All right, so that obligation was fulfilled. So expenses, that'll be recorded when they're incurred. So we'll see shortly an advertising where the business paid advertising ahead of time, a year in advance for the whole year. And so when that advertising is a monthly contract, so when that advertising has passed for that month, they have incurred the expense of advertising. So they'll record the advertising only for the 1 month portion, not for the full amount that they paid in advance. And you can think of that with utilities as well. You used the utilities for the month, but you didn't get the bill until the end of the month, and you hadn't paid it yet. Well, you're going to record the expense even though for that month, even though you hadn't paid it. All right, so that those expenses are going to be incurred. So when they're incurred. That's used by most businesses. Most businesses will use that method. And again, like I said previously, this provides a better picture of how the business is doing, of their revenues and expenses, their actual amounts, that what's actually happening within the business. So that's a brief overview of cash versus accrual. Let's go ahead and do a sample problem. So I'll bring that up. So here we are with our sample problem. Let's go ahead and practice some of these concepts of cash versus accrual with actual problems. So we can see here Archer Spy Services, they prepay the advertising in a local newspaper. On January 1st, the spy firm paid $12,000 for 12 months, easy numbers. And how much advertising expense should they record for the 2 months ending February 28th and then we have cash basis. So under cash basis for the 2 months ending February 28th, the spy firm would record, well, how much cash actually went out. Remember, cash basis is based off of the cash we receive or the cash we paid out. And so we paid out 12,000. So under cash basis, the spy firm is going to record the full 12,000. So let's go ahead and write that down. This is where they wanted it. So we'll write it there. All right, so we can see the full 12,000. Okay, so let's scroll up a little bit for the next one to understand accrual. So this one says, on their accrual basis for the 2 months ending February 28th, the spy firm should record advertising expenses of, well, this is under the accrual basis, what has actually incurred. Well, 2 months, only 2 months have incurred. Yeah, we paid 12,000 in advance, but remember the accrual basis is going to be based off of what has actually either been earned if we're doing revenue or what has actually incurred. So 2 months have passed, and so advertising for 2 months worth has only been used. So easy numbers I gave you, right? So we would say it was the full 12,000 for 12 months. So that's 1,000 per month, right? And we had 2 months we're doing. They were nice. They told us that too as well to remind us. So times 2. So we're looking at $2,000. We'll write that in there. All right, there you go. I'm back. So $2,000 for the 2 months. That wasn't too bad. Let's do one more little problem. So this one says, what if there were spy services provided for 3,000 in February? So they actually provided services in the month of February, and that was $3,000 worth. And the spy firm received only $1,000 of cash during February. So during the month of February, they only received from the customer $1,000, even though they gave $3,000 worth of services. And they will receive the remainder in the next month of March. Okay, let's go ahead and look at this. So, how much is reported on a cash basis for the month ending February 31st? So, cash basis, well, how much cash was actually received? Only 1,000. All right, that was what was actually received in February. Okay, so under the accrual basis, so I underlined those for you, but let's take them out now as we go through the accrual basis. So for the accrual basis for the month of February, well, they provided $3,000. They already gave these services. They already provided the services, and that was $3,000 worth for February. Doesn't matter that they only received 1,000; they've actually earned $3,000 worth. So on an accrual basis, they get to record 3,000 worth. All right, so hopefully that gives you an idea of the difference between cash basis and accrual basis. In the next few videos, we'll practice more of chapter three's concept.